Sooner Nation, Thunder Nation, we are back. This is the Just Okay Sports Podcast, and I am one of your village idiots, Daryl, and I'm here with my brother, Jared. What's up, man?
What's up? Still on the intro. But I'm doing good, you know. No, it's been good. It's been raining here like freaking nonstop, dude. It's been literally rained like I think every day for like maybe over a week. So yeah, been a little like it's kind of sucked because it's like usually I try to take the dogs on a walk, stuff like that. So that's kind of like sucked just because like maybe like stay in the house and I can't do as much and like um I don't know, just better when it doesn't. But it does keep it cool, I guess, because it gets. I will say the
Oh,
other
yeah.
day, I want to say like Saturday, it was like really hot, and then like it rained, and then like this is what I told me. I was like, I don't think I still, of course, we're not to like necessarily the dog days of summer yet, but I don't think it's like that much hotter in Florida than it is in Oklahoma. But like
Right.
the humidity hangs around so much longer. I
Yes.
don't even know that the humidity is worse. It just doesn't like in Oklahoma, you would like it would dissipate quicker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, other than that, it's been pretty good. So, yeah, just living the life. So, how are you? How's life in Oklahoma?
It has been very rainy here as well, but we've needed it desperately, so that's been good. This week's crazy, man. I've got to preach tomorrow night for our teenagers, so I've got that. I've got a wedding this weekend that I'm preaching, and we have a girl getting married that like I was her youth minister all the way from 6th grade all the way through 12th grade. And so Evan and Logan are trying to, while I'm doing the other wedding, they're trying to go over and attend that wedding to be there to support them. The kids have no idea, but we're taking them to Hamilton on Sunday night. They're doing it
Oh,
here in OKC. And so, but they are completely unaware that that's happening. And so we've got that Sunday night going down. So just a lot of stuff, man. Lots and lots and lots of stuff, but all good stuff, all fun stuff. And overall life is really, really good. So can't complain. Any good Florida man stories? Come on, like anything since last week, like legitimately good for
I
us to
mean,
get into.
I don't know that I can necessarily top last week's with the whole package pirate and all that.
Right.
Um, no, so I did see my first alligator on the
Let's go.
interstate, so that was pretty interesting.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, like it wasn't really that big. But yeah, I was going down, I guess technically a toll road, but still like it was like
Yeah.
3 or 4 lanes wide. And like
Dang.
I noticed up ahead, like everybody was like darting over, but I didn't see like any police lights or anything. So I was like, oh,
Right.
maybe like a car broke down or whatever. No, it was just an alligator like crossing the toll road. And like it was really weird. Like I don't even know. Again, like I'm starting to believe that in Florida, like it just randomly rains wildlife because like I don't know where it was. Is there was like a wall on either side of the toll road,
Right.
so I don't know where he came from. Like he had to have
Oh,
like
yeah.
walked down the highway. I have no idea. It was so weird. But anyway, yeah, I saw my first alligator since
Huh.
I've been here. Like that's been yeah, like just out in the open like that. So yeah, and like everybody of course darted over, but like everybody just it's just like, oh, normal day in Florida, keep driving. So yeah, I know that's not that as exciting as last time, but
Are
yeah,
there are there gator crossing signs in Florida? I'm just
yeah,
curious.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, there actually is, yeah.
nice.
There legitimately is.
Dude, what's
Uh
funny? I literally just listened to like a podcast version of a radio show today, and they actually talked about this. And they actually talked about how, like, especially smaller cars, they flip them,
yeah,
like when they run over them because they're just so stinking hard, and the way they're built, it literally just makes the car roll, like when
yeah.
they hit them generally.
Yeah, it like it will legitimately tear your car up. Like somebody like as a matter of fact, I was actually talking to one of my neighbors because I don't remember what day that was. Maybe it was like Friday or something. But anyway, I ran into my neighbor getting the mail, and he was like, "Yeah," he's like, honestly, he goes, imagine hitting an armadillo, but he's like it being the size of an alligator. He's like, they're that tough. Like, if an alligator or if you drive over an armadillo, for our Oklahoma listeners, and it jumps up, it'll mess your car up or whatever. Even if you run over it, like in a smaller vehicle, it can mess your car. But it's probably not going to flip your car unless you hit it like just right. But you can feel that it's all there. And that's what he said, that he's actually hit one in his truck before, and he goes, it actually jacked up his truck.
Really?
So yeah, they're a lot tougher than I mean, you already probably think they're tough because, like they, basically modern day dinosaurs, but they're they're tougher than you think, I bet. So I don't know. I was luckily in the left lane because I drive like an idiot, but yeah, so
Interesting.
yeah, so just a wild time. But yeah, I mean, there's the wildlife is that's what I would say. Like if anybody ever lives in Florida, like has moved to Florida or is living in Florida, that's just the one thing I've told you was the biggest difference to me isn't even the weather or any of that. That is a little bit different, but that's not so much different. It's just like the wildlife is just different. Like it's just like it's more present, I guess. Like you
Right.
like here's like how I describe somebody in Oklahoma. If you have cockroaches in your house, it's because your house is probably dirty and disgusting, right?
Right.
Here, you just have cockroaches in your house, like
Right.
not like hordes of them or anything, but it's like you're gonna find a cockroach on occasion or whatever,
Oh,
or
heck yeah.
lizards or frogs and ants and all kinds of stuff. And it doesn't matter. Like you could have a completely empty house that's been sterilized, and you'll still have basically bugs and lizards and all that. So I literally have to I treat my backyard like literally once a month. Basically, I go do like run my spreader in the backyard to treat for ants, and they just come right back. So
That's crazy. Crazy, crazy. So, well, let's get into some talk, shall we? Even though a
there's
lot
lots to
of it's
talk
not
about. Yeah, a
not the
lot of.
greatest of news, right?
Mhm.
So we're going to start Sooners talk, all the way from the gamut of football, recruiting, softball, all those things. And we're getting some NBA and some Thunder talk. And by the way, we're recording this Tuesday evening. The Celtics and Miami are playing currently, and the Celtics are holding on to a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter.
Was
So
is
they
that
have
series? Is it three? Is it 3-0 Miami?
3-0 Miami.
That's what I thought.
3-0
Yeah,
Miami. And I
they did
need
blow.
Miami to win. I need Miami to win. So
Didn't I know we're gonna talk about it, but didn't Miami like blow them out? Like I didn't get to watch the game. I think that night, but like they blew.
oh yeah, by like
Like it was like
35 or
35.
something
Yes, yeah, it was
stumping.
some. Yeah, it was crazy. So
Yeah.
anyway,
They
this has been
they
a wild. This has got to be one of the more wild playoffs that I can remember.
Yes, I mean, without a doubt. So, but we'll get to all that in a minute. So, Sooners, let's start with recruiting. All right. We talked about this
Mhm.
last week on the pod. Saturday afternoon, Xadavien Sims, a young man who attends Durant, Oklahoma, or is from Durant, Oklahoma, attends Durant High School. Big time 4-star defensive lineman, top 20, top 25 lineman in the country. We had said last week it was between Oregon and OU. Troy asked me what I thought, and I said I think it's going to be Oregon, and he chose Oregon. Now, obviously
Like
the
I
fall.
like the subtle flex you just made. That you're like,
I,
oh,
I well,
I
I
finally
mean,
got something right. Congrats.
here's the deal. We talked about this a little bit before the pod. What I didn't understand was everything behind the scenes kept saying, like early on, right when he's still talking to 40 schools, that Xadavien Sims, number one, while he goes to Durant High School, this is not an Oklahoma kid, right? Like he was raised in Texas and moved to Oklahoma within the last couple years. Does that make sense? So
Right.
that changes the narrative a little bit. And then two, and I said this last week, all we kept hearing in the beginning was it's not that he doesn't like OU, but he sees the opportunity of going to college on a football scholarship as an opportunity to see the world, right? To leave Texas and Oklahoma and go somewhere else and like I have no issue with that. Like
Mhm.
that makes total sense, right? I mean,
Right.
let's be honest. You love the place you work and all those things. At the same time, it was an opportunity for you, no wife, no kids. I get to go live in Florida. And if I hate it, great. I can find something else to do, but like I got a chance to go somewhere and see something and do what you know what I mean? So I had
I
said
mean,
last week I thought it was going to be Oregon because of those reasons.
yeah. I mean, I think like people try to slice things up into very black and white and like plain matters, right? Like as far as like, oh well, Oregon threw more money at him, or whatever. We've obviously seen and heard all
Yes.
kinds of stuff. Like the decision is much more complicated for most recruits, right? Like you said, there could be he wants to get out of the state just to see the world. Like
Yep.
there's a number of reasons that he could have chosen Oregon over OU that are completely valid, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
OU doesn't have everything. As much as we all love OU, we've said this a number of times. As much as we're completely biased as fans to OU, we all have to be real at some point and be like, yeah, but it doesn't, doesn't have, it's not the Pacific Northwest, or it's not LA, or it's not, even Austin, Texas, or whatever. Like,
Right.
as much as we want to hate on other schools, sometimes like we all hate Texas. That's great. Like Texas has appeal to kids for certain reasons, right? Like it's a really good school.
Yep.
Things like that. So it, we people have to stop trying to put it in such plain terms, because it's such a complicated, and we haven't even talked about the other things of like family dynamics or family pressure or whatever. So
Right.
yeah, I mean, that's why like I've always said I'm never, we've seen this especially over the course of the last uh I would say 5 years or so, like where recruiting reporting has gotten to where it's like, oh, we know where he's going, and then
Yeah.
it goes the opposite way, and it's
Right.
like, dude, there's no way you're gonna know.
Right.
There's just no way. I've said that for a long time. Like, there's just no way. If you're asking a 17-year-old kid what he's going to do in 5 minutes from now, that's a 50-50 chance. I mean, like, let's just be real about it, though. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's so funny to me that like you have guys, and I'm not trying to call out anybody particularly or anything, but it's like, guys, you just have to take it with a grain of salt. Even when they're reporting that, they don't know for
Yeah.
100%. Like,
Well,
it's
and
just
that's where, the crystal ball stuff's fun, the future, all those things. That's all fun and it's great and it's exciting. But yes, that's not like them putting a crystal ball in is not a kid's commitment. And by the
right.
way, let's just be honest about this. Now, I'm going to be clear. Uh I do not believe in any way, shape, or form that OU is going to keep the lines of communication open with Xadavien Sims. I think that ship has sailed, but like he's not signed any paperwork. Like, you know what I mean? Like he may not even end up at Oregon, and that's the other thing that people forget. So now the storylines with Xadavien Sims, because I know people are gonna like, okay, look, number one, I I don't know Xadavien Sims, and I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I've got people that are actually main pieces of the staff that I have relationships with. Okay.
Mhm.
So we're not gonna sit here and go through all these details of how Xadavien Sims did Oklahoma wrong. We will say this much. It seems very clear from different sources that he had given OU some kind of indication that he was leaning, trending their way, whatever you want to call that, right?
Mhm.
And basically at the ninth hour, send a text message to say, "Oh, sorry, going to Oregon." Okay, like whatever. Look, it's the kid's decision. So number one, and we've all said this before, don't tweet recruits, right? Like you can do a little OU emoji when they put OU in the top 5, whatever. Outside of that, don't like don't even say like good luck where you're going. Just leave it alone. Once they've committed, like just walk away. Walk away, fans. Um so I mean all those dynamics are there. The fan dynamic of all that stuff going down. What did he tell the OU staff and what he didn't? And like, look, at the end of the day, it is what it is. He picked OU. You're still in a great position with a lot of guys that are the top end talent of defensive line talent in this class. And
I
even
mean,
some guys that we did not expect them to have chances with that they are very much in the running with.
well, it's like, well, how many did we line out last week? I think we said like 9 guys
Yeah.
on the defensive line that
Right.
they have a legitimate chance with. And it's like, we even said, like, if they land 4 of those guys, that's under half, that's under 50%. That's knocking it out of the park.
Yes.
Like, this is going to be a
It'll
very,
be the best or one of the top 2 to 3 defensive line classes OU's ever landed.
yeah. And that's what I'm saying. So it's like, you're going to lose out on guys. Like, you just are.
Yep.
And things happen. Like I said, it's a very complex thing. Like I said, don't tweet a recruits thing. And then just obviously like things that you say on the internet are there in stone,
Right.
But yeah,
And
I
at the
mean,
same
like,
time, like you and I said, that like let's stop with this. Like I feel like every OU fan just overreacted and kept commenting and quote tweeting all the stuff that was being put up by the message board genius, right? Like, guys, do we not remember what Oregon fans were saying and Notre Dame fans were saying about Peyton Bowen when he flipped his commitment, right? Like this is not
I mean,
new and it's
it
not unique to OU fans.
well,
Like
like
it's
let's
still
just
stupid and terrible and it should not be there, but it's not unique to us.
here's how I look at this. I mean, every fan base, it doesn't matter how big of a rival they are to OU. I will say this literally about every fan base, be it college football or basketball or professional or not, or whatever. they have their scum people. Like that's just the fact of it. Like we all have
Yeah.
those fans that like I would say like I know OU fans. I'm like, dude, that guy's just a jerk,
Yep.
you know, or whatever. And it that's just the case, and it is the same for other fan bases or whatever. And unfortunately, it's kind of those that law of the loudest of the minority, right?
Yeah.
I felt like I saw, like on his announcement and stuff like that. Like I saw a lot of OU fans like, "Hey, man, wish you were a Sooner. Good luck."
Yeah.
Like that. I felt like that was a very much a majority, but it's hard whenever you have people that are saying just absolutely obscene and absurd stuff. So it's just a messed up deal. But like I said, I again, Xadavien Sims, like good luck to you. Whether you end up at Oregon or wherever you land, like I honestly, I wish you nothing but the best. I think that's the approach we have to have. And like I said, I think again, anytime you hear we know where a kid's going, you have to take that with a grain of salt. I don't know that it was really that with him. Like I feel like there was always a little bit of uncertainty, but
Yes.
still, like it's like some people now are kind of acting like um they had some great like intuition into what was going on inside his head. It's like, well, that's just not how that works. So
Right. Right.
um but anyway, but yeah, no, I mean it is what it is. But I mean,
Yep.
there's plenty of other it's kind of been a weird week,
It
isn't it?
has been. Has been. So then the other weird thing was that commitment came out of nowhere. A name none of us had heard, nothing, by the name of Lane Jenkins. I mean, literally, I don't care if your name was Parker Thune. I don't care if your name was Kerry Murray. Everybody was like, who is this guy? And come to find out, he's this JUCO guy, very raw, only played 1 year of high school football, goes to a JUCO, and in a very short amount of games, really racked up some good stats when you actually look at how many games he played. 6'5", 260-pound, kind of a raw athlete guy. And about 15 minutes later, he was no longer committed because apparently he visited, committed, and then like the next day, scheduled a secret trip to Illinois to visit Illinois. And we know that Brent Venables' policy is once you are committed, you do not visit. So they pulled his offer. Like it was just such a weird
And I
event.
would and that's one of those things of like I like obviously to me especially if what Venables has said, which I believe it pretty wholeheartedly, right? I mean, he just showed it, like this is kind of evidence to it. But did he already have the plan? Like the story I've heard is that he planned the visit to Illinois after he committed to OU. So he
Right.
committed to OU and then secretly behind the scenes made this trip, and then OU found out and they basically said we're not going to honor your commitment.
Right.
So which I mean, honestly, in that scenario is kind of fair. Based because it's like if you go in and they tell you this is how it's going to be, and you don't play by those rules, it's like I mean,
Yeah.
that is what it is. So yeah, that was a very weird situation.
Very weird. And then, of course, the other bad news coming out of the week, recruiting wise, was we had kind of heard some rumblings around for a while that Keyon Brown may not qualify. And that was one of the reasons that OU was hitting the transfer portal at receiver so hard, was because they were not anticipating him coming. And then it was reported by Colin Kennedy. I believe he was the first to report it. That Keyon Brown is definitely headed to Garden Community,
Garden City,
Garden
Garden
City
City
Community
Community
College.
College.
Um,
Which isn't that weird? Didn't Didi or somebody like wasn't there?
I think we've had a good relationship with them, which again, here's the other side of that. We have had a good relationship with them. And so it's a good thing he's going there. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah,
to be
yeah,
somewhere with the staff and all that you kind of have a history with is a positive. On the other end of that, his commitment is no longer valid, which means you have to recruit him all over again if you think he's a good player.
right.
And remember, he commits to OU and Alabama offered him right after that, and some different things like that. So it's a very
I mean,
interesting.
anytime you give basically a full year, right? Like you're giving another full year of runway,
Yeah.
um, for other schools to creep in and all that. So it's like it's not just because he was committed to OU doesn't mean that OU can just sit and watch and wait.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to have to be re-recruited, and it's going to be a square one thing. So,
Yeah. But definitely a blow. I mean, a guy I know that you and I both really liked his tape and his ability, and definitely a guy that in a very unproven wide receiver room, you think could have come in and maybe had an opportunity to work his way onto the field. So Definitely a loss for OU there. Did you get a chance to read the article in The Athletic by Ari Wasserman by chance?
I was able to read like part of it. I remember. I don't think I like kind of. I was actually trying to read it during a work meeting. So um, I'm just an okay worker too, I guess. But
There we
yeah,
go.
I was watching or I was reading that. Sorry, and then like I actually got asked a question. And by the way, I'm sorry, my dog is freaking out right now. Hey, it's okay. So yeah, I it is. I mean, it pretty much says what we heard though. You know what I mean? Like from what I had seen of it. So
Well, and
you got to
just
see.
to be clear before you go, like the Athletic article by Ari Wasserman was a sit down interview with Brent Venables, and it was like very pointed interview about Brent Venables' policy of no visits once committed, which Ari Wasserman was very much against, and states that in the article that I think that that's a terrible policy, and I wanted to talk to Venables about it. So that's what the article was about. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, now, look, I think Venables has been pretty clear. He hasn't been one of those guys that's like changed his tune based on anybody, right? Like we've seen, I would even say that a lot of coaches, I don't want to say majority, but a lot of coaches, like if it was like they had a chance to, trying to think of just like a high profile recruit. Oh, this is probably gonna make everybody mad, but it's the only that can come to my mind off the top of the head. Let's say like you had a chance to land Caleb Williams. It's like they might have made some extra concessions to try to land Caleb Williams as they would to other players. But I mean, I think even OU fans, if we're being honest, Caleb is a supreme talent. So, but I don't think that matters for Venables. I think if Venables is going to say like this is the rule, like I don't care if you're a 5-star by every service, you're the number one recruit in the nation. This is the rule. You commit. There's no visits, and if you do, you understand what that means.
Yeah.
So obviously the Jenkins thing kind of proves that. I mean, I don't think it's a. I think it's a. I don't know how it's good.
The Jenkins things prove it, but to play the counter, the devil's advocate, he did allow Anthony Evans to visit, and he did allow Colton Vosick to visit last recruiting cycle. And what happened with both of those guys?
Sure, but I mean, I get it, but Vosick was like that was a different kind of deal, right? Like that was kind of a little bit of a unique situation. I understand it, but like he had been going to Texas games all season before that because
well,
his
his
dad's a
whole
season
life
ticket
because his parents are alums and
season ticket
holders and
holders
all
and
that.
yeah. And so, like I get it. But yeah, I do understand what you're saying, but I don't know. It's definitely a I'm sure that there's a little bit of pick and choose to it, but I just don't know that I think Venables it's going to come down to like what he sees the character of a kid more than it is his star rating, right? You know what I mean? Like because he talked about, like you said, we've even talked about that about the post the spring game interview where he basically talked about how they had to get a lot of locker room issues sorted out.
Yeah.
On the field, but especially off the field. And I think that's really what he's looking at is I think he does want to find the guys. Like I think he would be willing to give some rope to somebody that's proven that they're a good high character person or whatever. But anytime somebody goes on a visit, there's obviously a risk. So
yeah,
it is what it is.
Here's a great quote at the end of the article. So just by the way, again, Wasserman comes in to do the interview because he thinks Venables' policy is a terrible and a stupid idea. And he has been very outspoken and even wrote articles against it. He interviews Venables and changes his mind. Literally says, Venables changed my mind. And listen to what he says. He says, but here's the thing about Venables. He doesn't care if he loses a really good player who doesn't share his values. He doesn't want the types of prospects in his locker room who can't keep their word. He's about culture and fit and putting the team first. That's how he wants to run the show. While there's no question that having a no visit policy may result in the loss of commitments, it's difficult to knock what Venables is trying to accomplish. And by doing it this way, he probably is creating a culture in which fewer people are going to want to transfer to. So he literally like flips and goes, okay, like I kind of get where he's going with this, right? Like, and that there's some positives to it. And so,
Well, I
I just
mean,
thought it was a really interesting article. And I mean, BV, everything we've ever heard him say in a press conference, he said in the article.
yeah, I mean, like here's the thing too is here's what's funny about this. I look at BV like I had just literally had this epiphany. I view BV maybe the way in some sense that I see like Ted Lasso, right? Like in just the sense that he's like trying to build a good culture and he's trying to build a team first mentality and even somewhat especially in today's terms has an unconventional approach to things. I don't think he's as much of a goofball as Ted Lasso is, but you know what I mean? Like he's definitely taking an approach that I think is somewhat old school, but also somewhat like revolutionary in
Mm-hmm.
today's terms. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, I don't, I can't like basically that's almost what I said. You know, like I don't. It's going to be a culture thing. Like I do think that um it's still early on. Like this is the second year of BV, but it
Right.
feels like the culture's only gotten stronger. Like at least from an outward appearance, it feels
Yep.
like the team's even closer. It seems like there's a lot less. We're not hearing about every week about some crazy story about somebody, getting arrested or a warrant out for their arrest and all that,
Right.
which started to become commonplace. So, I think that's going to be something that if we give Venables enough time, I think that's something that he can really build a championship program off of.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I do think it's the culture he wants. And if that's the culture he wants, it's there. And I think the other thing that people don't understand if they're from outside the OU circle and don't follow it like we do, the world of recruiting tends to be a very hard sell and a very hard push commit now. And I think that's what people think about Venables, right? When they see this policy, they think he's going and saying, I need you to commit right now. And then now that you've committed, you can't go visit anywhere. And he literally does it the opposite, right? He says, do not commit. Go take all your visits, go do all your stuff, go see whatever you want to see, and go check out whatever you need to check out so that you know this is the place you want to be. And then once you know that for certain, then you can commit,
Well,
right? So
there's even
that's I think the big difference that people don't connect sometimes.
there was a video. I don't God, whose was it? There was somebody that's I think it was their announcement video. They
Yeah.
had the video of him like him actually committing to BV, and BV was like, "Are you like basically like, are you sure? Like this
Yes.
is what you want to do? Like this is your once you're committed to the University of Oklahoma."
Yep.
And it's like it was a long process. He wasn't just like, "All right, let's go." Like you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like he was like, "I want you to be certain." So yeah, it's just a different approach than I think. I'm not gonna say he's the only one doing it, but he's definitely one of the few doing it.
Yeah. Him and Dabo are definitely like the two, right? So there's that. So that's kind of a little bit of positive, but a lot of kind of negative Nancy a little bit in there. So we decided to ask a Twitter question / Discord question to all of you. All right. And I want to start with you, Jared, and then kind of go through some of the responses. But I think we both agree 6 and 7, you cannot stay at 6 and 7 and continue to recruit well, right?
Right.
And
Yep.
so with all the recruiting losses that have kind of come up here this week with all that, besides winning, what is a specific thing that OU needs to do to begin to really get the attention of the elite recruits, in your opinion?
I mean, we've talked about it a little bit, but I think you've got to you got to improve in the trenches, especially in BV system, right? But you have to get the guys that are going to stand out, right? Like we both think PJ could be a standout, but you also I even really think the more I think about that, it's like as much as PJ appears to be a phenomenal maybe even a generational talent, um, it's like he's also you've got to show that you can develop him, right? Like if he comes
Right.
in as a freshman and leaves as a junior, even if he's a high draft pick, it's like, did he get better? Right? Like,
Right.
is there a marked improvement, or was there something he added to his game, so forth and so on, to do that? So I think that's something you got to do. Like, you really got to start showing that not only like you can't the more time that goes along. Like I would say this is more important the longer it goes along, but this is probably obviously the first year in his second season that you need to see somebody like, I'd say, like, say take Stutzman.
Hmm.
I know he's not on the defensive line, but say you take Stutzman and you see a marked improvement in Stutzman, that's a big selling point. You could say, like, he can go and say, look, I only had 2 years with him, and really
Right.
only really a year and a half. And I look how much like he was able to improve because he bought in and he believes in the culture, and this is what like we're capable of doing
Yep.
at Oklahoma. So I think you got to start seeing some things like that. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be uh there's just honestly there's just a lot of ways to improve from last season. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Or I guess the opportunity, but the problem. You know what I
Right.
mean? So
Yeah. I think I would very much echo what you said. I mean, I had written down its development. It's taken like, I mean, one of the first guys, because I think of defensive line is the area that we need so much, right? But you made a great one, Danny Stutzman. Like, can Danny Stutzman this year get 100 tackles with, 30% less plays, right?
right.
Like, because, like, let's be real, he led the Big 12 in tackles because they were on the field the whole freaking game, right? Like, that's the thing. Now let's lead the conference in tackles because we're just tackling everything that moves, right? And we're
Mm-hmm.
getting 3 and out and those kinds of things. Isaiah Coe. Can Isaiah Coe go from a JUCO guy that's kind of been this rotational guy to a draft day guy? And I think like not even a first rounder. I think he just needs to be like a third round pick, right? Like if you
Right.
could do something like that, then you get to go, look, I did that with this. Now what am I going to do with you? And the wins are going to come if those things happen. So I think those are kind of the two for me now. And we've seen this kind of echoed, right? OU Champs on Discord said have players start to turn into stars. He mentions a great one, Tyler Guyton, right? If Tyler Guyton can truly develop into an all-star, all-conference tackle, I mean, Bedenbaugh's already got a great reputation, but that just ups the ante, right? That you took this guy that was a tight end and put him here, right? I did like this one on Discord from James W. He put in there, you've got to win when it counts, and you got to win big when it counts. And he puts Texas, right? Like, so, especially this year with the schedule they have, it's got to be those games that you've got to win big. And then Swayze on there kind of echoed what we said. I think you've got to get Coe and Stutzman. He puts first rounder. I think that's a little too ambitious, but
Yeah, I mean,
uh,
I see Stutzman. I see Stutzman ceiling is a third round, maybe fringe second round if he absolutely balls out. And that's
right.
like the like I said, really the ceiling for him, in my opinion.
And
And
that's if he
plus,
tests really well. I mean, that's the thing, man. You've got to test great, not just get great numbers.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, heck,
and honestly, Danny's like, I don't even know what he weighed in at for the spring game, but like I feel like even to be an NFL first rounder, he would have to put on weight and still be as mobile as he is.
I think he's at a pretty good spot. He's between 234, 240. I mean, so I think he's in a
Eh,
good position. He doesn't look that big because he's so tall that he's a little more lean. If you really look at a lot of these new middle linebackers in the NFL, they're in that 6'2" category, and he's every bit of 6'4.5".
yeah,
So
he's.
I
I mean,
mean
we've
that
seen him in person. He's a big dude.
Yeah, I mean that spreads the weight out a little bit. On the Twitter, we have Dusty Baker Mayfield SEC 24 said this: defense needs to be vastly improved, especially at the line, so that Coach Bates can show proof of concept to potential recruits. Also, I'm paying attention to the number of defensive plays. We don't want to go over 100 again like we did versus OSU, and get a good number of 3-and-outs. I think that's a great kind of what we're saying. Like if the defense develops, those things should come along. I thought this was an interesting one. You actually picked this one though. Show that the offense is fun and that Venables has righted the defensive ship. Other than that, it comes down to the recruits' interests more than our own. And that is from Resurgence, which is at Patriot 1991 2021. Is that one.
Yeah, I mean, I want to. I guess I want to do the tackle the offense one first because I think with Venables we do have um a habit, I guess, of talking about the defense more than we do the offense, just
Yes.
because he's such a defensive minded coach. That's fair, I guess, to some degree. But the offense was very. I mean, like I know, like I'm not saying the defense played phenomenal last year, right? But it's like I honestly like I would have to go back and watch all the games again probably. But it's like it feels really like the offense, like the Texas game. Like as I know, even though Texas hung 49 on us, it's like the offense literally could do nothing.
Yes.
They ran the Wildcat and then Texas figured out how to stop it. And it was like we nothing. We
Well,
had
even
nothing.
when they hadn't figured out how to stop it, we went away from it.
Yeah. But but you know what I'm saying? I feel like there was times that the offense was just as much to blame for a loss as the defense was.
Yeah.
So and it needs to feel fun because it didn't feel I don't think anybody necessarily felt like we were going to be able to just be as high horsepower as we were, with Caleb Williams and all the people you had across the board. And especially just I said it's crazy when you really think of the last 20 years how spoiled OU fans are. I know we say this all the
Yeah.
time, but no offense to Dylan Gabriel, but he's really not. I mean, he's not Baker and he's not Kyler, for instance. He's
Right.
not probably even Jalen to some degree. So it's going to be interesting to see how they can kind of develop the offense and get that kind of rolling because that's going to be like I said, I feel like if that doesn't improve it could be something that's going to lose you games because the defense can only do so much. I mean,
Right.
it's a two-way game. So
Yeah. And then one more from our man, Steve Bullard, who's one of the best follows ever on Twitter. If you are not following Steve Bullard, that's Steve with a V. So Steve. Bullard is Bullard. Great guy. We're hoping to have him on the pod. He has been very patient. I've asked him before and not come through on scheduling him. So we're hoping to get him on here at some point. But he said this. This is pretty much just saying win games, which you said not to write. But I believe they have to show the Mo is back in this program. The vibe is good and the direction is strong. So not just winning, but how they win, how they play, how they finish down the stretch. I love that. I mean, he's talking about seeing that culture starting to make its way onto the field, I think is kind of really what he's getting at there.
so okay. So can I give an example of my opinion? What would be the epitome of that?
Yes.
So, and God, this is gonna feel so good because I hate Texas A&M. You and I both were at the 2000, I believe, 3 OU Texas A&M game, 77-0 blowout, and I distinctly recall it got up, and this was so funny because the media tried to rip apart Bob Stoops and say that he ran up the
Oh, God.
score.
One guy did. One guy did. Yes.
Yeah, but it was like it got to like I think 56-0 or 63-0. I mean, it was very much out of hand for A&M. And OU at one point was just literally letting them through. Like, I distinctly recall, I think me and you were actually sitting next to each other at that game, if I remember right. And they were just letting basically the offensive line would just stand up, let somebody through, and they let them kind of sack the quarterback or hit the running back or whatever, and they would just kind of fall to the ground. Like we were basically running clock
Yep.
in like the third quarter. And eventually, like a Texas A&M guy, they stand up, let him through, and he goes by and he hits the quarterback, hits him fairly hard, not like crazy. And he gets up and starts doing a sack dance. And I remember like we're in a stadium, and what's funny is it was like, I mean, some people obviously had started to go home, but it was still fairly packed, and it just got dead quiet in the stadium. And like you could just see that you could see the players on the sideline, everybody just got still, and then somebody behind us yelled something, and the whole stadium went wild. And then they immediately went like I think the next play they either passed or did like a crazy run play for like 60 yards for a touchdown. It was like, okay, if you want to play that, then we're gonna step on your throat. We're not gonna let up. You want that kind of like, but you know what I mean? Like you want that fire, you want that like we're just gonna beat you into the ground mentality. Like we're not going to like that was something that we complained about in the Lincoln Riley era, right?
Yeah.
Was getting guys on the ground and then letting them up. And I think that's part of what maybe he's trying to say is you want that killer instinct. You want those early 2000 teams that just absolutely beat their opponent into the ground and we're not gonna once they were on the ground, they kept their foot on their throat the whole game. And I think I wholeheartedly agree with that. So Steve, I'm 100% on board with you, and they just need that swagger back. So
Yeah, totally agree. So, speaking of swagger, let's switch gears now on the OU front to softball dominance. OU goes 3-0 in their regional with a score of 38-3 in their regional. They won 11-0, 11-0, and 16-3. Now, if you want to just be a dark Daryl, just nitpick, critique something, legitimately the only issue throughout the whole weekend was Alex Sirocco. Who,
I,
by the way, when I say she was an issue, she pitched well enough to have us up 14-0. And then I believe it was the third or fourth inning. And she just began to just kind of walk people. And you could just tell she just wasn't locked in anymore. Now, the only
well,
negative about that is she did the exact same thing the last game she started, which was against Oklahoma State. She pitched really good for about 3 innings. And then the fourth inning, she kind of just fell apart for a minute and then got it back and finished it out, right? So if you're looking for a reason to say this team is not completely, unbeatable, that's about all you got. But I mean, good Lord, man.
well, I that frustrates me a little bit because I did see some people like on Twitter and in some of the discords I'm in. They were like, "Oh, we got to get her," and I'm like, "Okay, look, I understand," but I was like, "You also have to understand the inning preceding her letting them get the runs. She sat for like 30 minutes because her offense just kept going off.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying that that's you still got to stay locked in, but the longer you sit on the bench and you're watching your team, and you're not pitching. Like I think they even said she had to get up and go to the bullpen to keep her arm warm. She waited so long.
right.
It's hard to stay locked in when that happens. So, I'm not trying to give her necessarily a free pass on it, but yeah, and that's really nitpicking. I mean, there was a
Yeah.
dominant. And by the way, did you have seen that? It's funny that we beat Lions, Tigers, and Bears to get to the Super Regional, right?
No, I did not
Yeah,
see
so
that.
the Hofstra Lions, the Cal Bears, and Mizzou Tigers. So,
Wow.
so we beat Lions, Tigers, and Bears to get to the uh
No.
the Super Regional.
That is hilarious. I had not seen that at all. That is so funny. Yeah, and look, man, like again, the only reason I even bring up the Storako thing is because she did it against Oklahoma State without that 30-minute lull, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Tight
yeah, yeah.
games, and we had
Well,
a
she's
lead, and she started to struggle. Now, all year long, she's been nails. And here's the other thing. You're going to have days as a pitcher where you're not on the whole time. And that's the beauty of this team because as soon as Patty got a feeling that she was losing it and getting off track, she brings in Mayday, and which is Nicole May, and Nicole May just says, "Yeah, we're done. Like this is over with,
well,
right? Like we're
and,
not we're not going any farther here."
and I also want to put in the Cal thing. I don't want to make this sound like I'm trying to be like, oh, the officiating, but the umpire didn't feel like his strike zone in that inning was as dead on as it had been the rest of the game. Like there was one batter that I can recall that I think she had down like 1-2 in the count and got two balls called off that were like I was like I don't like that was hairline if it was a ball. You know what I mean? Like so he kind of wasn't giving her a lot of play, I don't think there. But it's like you said, Nicole May comes in and closes it, so it's fine. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think Storaka's still a beast.
Yes.
I'm not worried when you're complaining that your pitcher allowed 3 runs when you're up 16.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
I think we're spoiled very much
Yeah.
so.
Oh, 100%. Well, I would say this, like, as much as I'm just throwing that out there as a critique, I'm more encouraged because last year you had a pitcher you trusted, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because Ball was injured. So you didn't really know what you were going to get from her. Nicole May was a little bit up and down last year. So you didn't
Mm-hmm.
like, you know what I mean? Like, and really the last two championships have been that way. You have
Gee,
a
if
pitcher that you've got to lean on all the way through. That's your ace.
well,
And right now you're sitting with Storako, ace, Nicole May, ace, Jordy Ball, ace. Like the pitching
and
is so much better than it has been in a long time at OU.
and as much as we want to nitpick Nicole May or not, sorry, Nicole, Storako and things like that, it's like the last year, G when G basically won the Natty in the
Yep.
playoffs for us. It's like really when you look at it though, like during the season, she had some ups and downs. Like it was a very inconsistent pitching rotation
Yes.
that season. As
Yes.
strong as that team was too, that team was phenomenal. I'm not trying to take anything away from them, but the pitching, it was like it felt like you always, like you were kind of saying, like you always had that one pitcher that was hot, and sometimes it was Nicole May, sometimes it was G, or so, you know what I mean? Like it was always somebody. Like when Ball went down, Ball's pretty much been tough the entire time she's pitched, except when she was injured.
Yeah, she's
Um,
been nails, man.
yeah, but she's like you said, right now it's like I'm not worried. Whoever marches out there onto the mound to start, I'm not worried about it. Like
Yeah.
this pitching rotation is absolutely insane.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like we keep saying this. We've said it now 1,000 times over. Last year the team was constructed this way where the offense was maybe the most elite offense we've ever seen in college softball history, but the pitching had you scared that they may not be able to really to hold things. I would say the offense has come like it's just a little bit more this way. The offense is still the best offense in college softball this year, but the pitching with
It's kind
three
of
people that can go is just
it's
ridiculous.
kind of like what we want the football team to do.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's a great call. That's a great
Yeah.
call. So, and then also just very quickly, I don't follow golf much. I'm not really that into it, but our men's golf team as well qualified for the championship also. So they are actually going to be starting on Thursday to play for a national title over the next 4 or 5 days. And so, man, Coach Hibble, great job. This was supposed to be a rebuild year for the golf team. They sent several guys off to PGA and other places, and they were supposed to have a
He's
down year, and now here they are back able to compete for a championship.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I even saw somebody was talking about that they said, one last year they won the Big 12 championship in golf. And they're like, that's already pretty tough to do. Like, but they're like, you could get like that generational talent of a guy. Like if you had Jordan Spieth on your team,
Right.
or whatever, then it's like, okay, that's something. Right. But it's like the fact that they're doing it a second year and they're able to compete a second year, it's like it's
Yeah.
showing that they're starting to actually build a program,
Yes.
and not just a one-off. We had a good season.
Yeah. No doubt. So congratulations to all of them. Go check out the games if you can. Go get tickets. If you live in the Scottsdale, Arizona area, that's where the golf championship is. Go check it out. Great place to watch golf, especially this time of year. So go and see it. So let's talk a little Thunder and NBA. LeBron and the Lakers are swept last night.
I'm sorry, Nemo.
4 games to 0. They are out. Now, look, let's start with this. I don't think anybody saw the Lakers going this far in the playoffs. Let's just say that number one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even still, to just not be able to really get anything going against Denver, I was shocking. I mean, just that they could not. And then, I mean, even last night, LeBron goes nuts in the first half. And you're thinking, dude, he's going to carry them to a win. And then the second half just disappeared
Right.
completely. So wild stuff. And by the way, Miami and the Celtics are final. The Celtics have won to make it a 3-1 series. They just need to win 3 more in a row over Miami to win the series. And they're out of it. So and then post game of this Lakers game.
Yeah.
I got a lot to think about in regards to basketball right now. What
Yeah.
did you make of that?
Oh man. Okay. So can I say two things basically at the same time and say that I think LeBron is a generational talent. He will go down as one of the greatest three basketball players to ever play the game.
Yes.
And as far as what his game is, I respect him immensely. I also would say that he annoys the living crap out of me, and I don't know that I'll ever be able to be a full fan of him. Because it
Right.
just always seems like he says stuff where it's like he's just trying to create a headline or he's trying to grab a little bit of the attention off the thing. And it's like, dude, you're not retiring. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, it's just this. I don't know. It just felt like such a boneheaded, disingenuine thing to say. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I just didn't. That's how I felt. I don't know. What
Yeah.
was your opinion on it?
So let me echo some of those things. I think LeBron is by no doubt a top 5 player of all time in the NBA. Top 3 is probably more accurate. Um, I think he's a good human being for the most part. Like you've
Mm-hmm.
never like heard he's involved, in his kids and it does a lot of charitable type stuff. I mean, again, never been arrested, blah blah. I mean, there's 1,000 things we could say. He's a good dude. But man, he's a drama queen. And that's what is hard to swallow about LeBron. The book reading junk with LeBron that he did forever, the building teams everywhere he goes over and over and over again. Just those kinds of things. look, man, when he first said that, this was my instant reaction. I started laughing out loud as I watched the press conference live. And I said, you really want us to believe that you're not going to say, this is my last year to be in the NBA, and you're not going to take your victory lap around to all the cities in the NBA for a whole season? No, like that's LeBron to the T right
This
there.
is the man. This is the man that did the big decision thing where
Yes.
the half the city of Cleveland rioted because of what he did. You know, I mean, like it doesn't fit his mold, like you said, and it's just one of those things of like, I don't know. What's funny is let me put it this way. This is gonna be a more controversial take, so I really want your opinion on this.
Oh, great.
You know, we've already talked about Embiid and what he said,
Mm.
which I guess like I have seen like it was a little bit taken out of context, but even when it was put in context, it's like it's still not a good thing to
Right.
say. Um, but at the same time, um, and I won't really put Embiid as like in the bad leadership category, but I put like he's a little bit lacking in that department. I would say LeBron's just a hair better than that. Like I think LeBron's a better leader, but I also don't think he's phenomenal. I think if you look at the teams that he's actually taken to a championship, he had other people that were able to kind of fill that leadership void. Like I would say like Dwayne Wade was the leadership guy
Mm.
whenever he was on the Heat, for instance. You know what I mean? Like I just don't feel like he's really um I don't feel like he's that guy when it comes to leadership, is how I maybe should put that.
Yeah, I mean, I think leadership's fine with him, and I think he's even shown very good leadership in different places and times and all those kinds of things. But yeah, I mean, again, my biggest thing is he's just a drama queen, and again,
Mm.
I would bet my life savings, which is all of $10, that there is no way he does not take a victory lap
Yeah.
season when he retires. There's just that will
Oh, there'll be
he is gonna make sure to have a commemorative jersey for each and every city. I mean, like he's gonna do all the stuff up, man, to the max. That was my
well,
again my first thing.
he'll have a whole TV production for the announcement,
Yeah.
and it'll all be pre-planned 6 months in advance.
Oh
And
yeah, it'll be something great. And by the way, just shame on ESPN, Fox, and everybody else, and Twitter for that matter. The Denver Nuggets just swept the freaking Los Angeles Lakers. Swept them. And I mean, for the most part in those games, put on a clinic against them. And no one talked about them today. No one. All
yeah,
they could talk about was if LeBron was retiring. And that is just shame
well,
on us.
it's
Shame
yeah,
on us for not
and
talking
even
about the greatness of Jokic and Jamal Murray. Good
well,
Lord, that
like
guy can ball.
the only article I saw that was specific to Denver making it to the finals was this is the first time in franchise history, and it's like so we don't want to talk about how dominant of some of their players are. Like
Right.
Jokic right now is a top 5 player in the NBA.
Man, he's so good.
Yeah, what was it there now when we were last podcast? Even we like he had a triple double in the first what half or quarter, like it was
Like
something
quarter and a
insane.
half. Like
Yeah,
quarter and a
quarter and a
half.
half. He had already had a triple double. You know, like why are we not talking about that? Like if it was you know, and that's where like it's sad because like if you know it was some like other people in the NBA that are more high profile, Steph or LeBron or whoever, they might be getting a lot more attention about just how good they are. And it's like I think we need to start having a discussion about how Jokic is. I mean I don't know. I would probably put top 5. I would put top 5. I mean, I still think you have Giannis and some of those guys that are probably better than Jokic overall, but Jokic is up there with them. I mean, he's not a guy that you can sleep on.
Here's the deal. Nobody wants to put Jokic up that high because he's just not an amazing athlete.
Yeah.
Right. But he is skilled beyond belief with good size. That's the thing. Right. So,
Mm.
and the other guy, by the way, that's not being talked about enough, and I know that they lost by like 15 or 16 or something like that tonight, but Eric Spolstra, I mean, he has a team of Jimmy Butler, Kyle Lowry, and oh my gosh, Adebayo, right? Everybody else on that team that plays significant minutes wasn't even drafted. Those are all unrestricted free agents or undrafted free agents. Sorry, not unrestricted, undrafted free agents. And he's on the verge of going to the NFL or NBA finals.
Yeah, I mean, and you also have to think like he's also had to manage some of the biggest I'll say divas, but the biggest
Egos.
personalities,
Yep.
egos, personalities. I was trying to be more gentle with it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
He's also had to be the guy that's had to almost Phil Jackson managing all these massive talents that have massive wants and desires and everything else, and he's had to like control that, and he's
Yeah.
done it, and he's been able to develop guys that, like you said, nobody was counting on.
Yeah. And again, I think we don't talk about him enough because yes, the championships he had was LeBron, Wade, and all that stuff, but he has had multiple teams now that have overperformed under his leadership that
Well,
were ragamuffin rosters that he has taken much farther and higher than they should have ever gone.
well, and here's something you have to think about too, because as good as Denver's been all season, to be honest with you, nobody's really talked, like you said, I would say all season nobody's really talked about them as much as they would of other teams. Like if the Lakers had the same record and the same dominance as the Nuggets did,
Oh
we'd
gosh.
we'd hear nothing. You turn on ESPN, that's all you'd hear,
Right.
right? And even now with Miami, which surprisingly, like ever since they basically have not been a super team with Wade and LeBron and all that, it's like you don't hear about them. Like if it ends up being a Nuggets versus Heat finals,
Oh,
like I'm actually going to enjoy it, but I feel like we're not going to hear as much about it. Like
right.
you will, because it's the NBA finals, but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's not going to be hyped about like the David versus Goliath or these two titans that are fighting of Golden State. And you know what I mean? Like it's what was it? Golden State played. Oh, who was it they played
Cleveland.
that year that it was like, was it Cleveland? I don't remember, but there was one when Golden State even was really good, and you had Steph and all them, and they were playing some really great. They're playing great teams in the East or whatever. It was like,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like it was built up like this huge spectacle, and it's like now I'd be like, oh, it's gonna be a good game.
Yeah.
It's like I just don't feel like, at least with what ESPN and a lot of the media has done, it's they just not giving these teams enough credit.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So lots of respect around. It's been a super fun, even with the sweeps, it's been a fun playoffs. And then the last thing to just kind of talk about, and I don't know that we've got any info, or I know we don't have any info other than for whatever reason, since the lottery last week when we podcasted, the Portland Trailblazers have decided to be very public about the fact that they would like and are very willing to trade the third pick in this draft. Which I don't know what that means. I don't know if they, you hear some people saying they want to build around Damian Lillard with that third pick and elevate them to a playoff team. You hear others saying they want to turn the third pick into a whole bunch of picks and maybe even move Damian Lillard to rebuild and restart and get going again. I don't know. But I can tell you this much: with the Thunder having the 12th pick and 4 picks next year in the first round, I think there's a chance that there could be some wheeling and dealing at the 3 pick, which would be fascinating to see who Sam Presti just feels like he has to have.
I feel like this is where I wish Troy was able to pod with us tonight, but I would say because like here's the thing, we've already talked about this. Presti's done moves that none of us saw coming. Nobody,
Right.
not even people in the media that are very well versed and very well connected and behind the scenes and all those other things. I don't think anybody saw what happened last season in that draft, right?
Right.
So my question would probably be more of, are you taking that we're going to stay at 12 or are we going to move up?
Right.
Because outside, if we stay at 12, like that's reasonable to me, and if we move up, that's reasonable to me. But like Presti is the dude. I don't know. I really don't know that I could name. He's definitely he's a top 3 GM in the league right now. And I don't think you can even really make an argument against it, considering where Oklahoma City's at right now.
Right. No, 100%.
Because that's the thing. The number of options he has. Right. Like most teams, it's like, okay, they're gonna create, like, that they need to trade up.
Right.
Like we don't have to trade up. We really don't. Like we don't even have to. Like I was saying, does drafting somebody help you? Yes, probably. but the team's going to be better next year. We pretty much already know that. Like, barring some catastrophe, you already have pretty much the pieces you need. You just need them to
Yep.
develop. They're just young.
Yep.
So he could draft, he could not draft, he could just, you know what I mean? Like, it's just there's so many avenues he could take. So I'm
Well, and
foaming at the mouth.
that's why it's going to be fun. And then not to mention, Presti's done this before, the 3-team and 4-team trades where you're moving pieces from all over the board to get to something. I mean, it's going to be just fascinating. The NBA draft, by the way, is the 22nd of June, so it's a month away basically from now. It's going to be a fun month. Rumor on rumor on rumor. You better have your sham bombs and your Woj bombs turned on and ready and notifications, because it's going to get wild between
Well, and it's just
trades and free agency and all the different things moving
well,
forward.
and the crazy thing is I would actually say, like, this is the not just the Oklahoma City Thunder, but there's so many teams that are on the cusp of needing to rebuild. Like, they've got an aging roster.
Right.
They could totally try to go a different route. Like, this is probably the most volatile draft I think that's been in maybe a decade or more.
Yeah.
Like, you can see a lot of teams. Like, the draft order could look completely different after it's done from what it is right now.
Yep. Oh, there's no doubt. Like I said, should be a fun month. So, well, that is all that we've got for tonight. If you've enjoyed the podcast, please like, subscribe, follow, do all the different things. Hit us up on Twitter, interact with us there. We love doing that. We want to do that. And so please do that with us as much as you can. And then also the Discord. I'll do my best to put up the link in the description for you to get in and join us in the Discord. There's lots of discussion and behind the scenes notes in there. It's a great place to be. So please do that. And again, leave us a review if you can, whether you liked it or not. Leave us a 5-star review. Doesn't matter. Just help us out. Do it. That'd be just great. Okay.
Yep.
We're having a great time. We hope you are too. I'm Daryl. That's Jared. We'll talk to you guys later.
Night, Baker.